We begin today's show with a public service announcement. Despite what you might read or see over the weekend, Josh Taylor is still the undisputed super lightweight world champion, regardless of Gervonta Davis parading his belt around the ring last night. And with that out of the way, this is After the Bell. I'm Martin Domin, joined again by Barry Jones and by Declan Taylor. We will come to Mr. Davis in a while, but first let's start with Vasyl Lomachenko, who returned to the ring. For the first time since his defeat by Teofimo Lopez last year, he recorded a 9th round stoppage against Masayoshi Nakatani. An impressive performance. Nakatani was down in the 5th round before the fight was then stopped, as I said, in the 9th. There was no slow start this time, Barry, from Lomachenko, as we saw against Lopez. He had to make a statement, I suppose, and he did that.
Yeah, he did. No, he never starts fast. He always has a look at his opponent, but also he didn't do that in the Lopez fight. But in this fight and previous fights, he still does enough to win the round. He just, he just goes through the motions, wants to see what you has, and works out how he's going to work off that. But he did that quite quickly. I think Nakatani, even though he was massive in reach and height, was the perfect opponent for Lomachenko. Really was, because slow hands. The jab was too slow. And Lomachenko could work around that. Once he can see the punches coming, you're done for. And the sublime movement around the body is just a joy to watch. It really is. It looks so easy that you could copy it. And you see all these kids down the gym copying it on the back and inspiring. But in a real life fight scenario, it's practically impossible to do. And he does it at the highest level. It's just I know he trains in his muscle memory, but just have that thought process so quick to make that movement and do that move straight away. Whatever's coming at you against a naturally bigger guy, it's just fantastic. And now hopefully it looks like that we're going to get the Lopez rematch, which I think will be. Lomachenko came back into it in the latter stages of that fight, and he lost the fight, and I thought he lost it fair and square. Though a bad loser he was on the night, let's not forget that. But I still think that this second fight would be more competitive earlier on. So Lopez will have up his game, but all in all, last night was relatively an easy night for Lomachenko. And again, as always, he shone.
I know Nakatani is not Lopez, Tech, but Lomachenko was insistent that last time he had the injury, he then had surgery. He's now saying he's all fine. Does last night in any way change your view of what happened back in October?
No, it doesn't change my view of what happened in October. I think they got the sort of tactics wrong. I think it's quite an easy fight to assess, which we did back then. It was kind of, I think he was surprised a bit by the power of Lopez when he caught him sort of early on, particularly to the body, and he was a little bit cautious then. And then before he knew it, it was 8 rounds, 9 rounds down, and he was out of the fight. And like Barry said, then he did switch it on a little bit. So then what it does slightly change my opinion of is what happens in the rematch, because I was massive on, well, it's just going to be the same again. But really, if you think about it, if it picked up from where they left it, Lomachenko coming into it a bit more, having a bit more success, seemed to have figured out a little bit better what he was supposed to do with this big lump who punches hard and is actually reasonably elusive despite his size. Then we got a really interesting fight. I think Nakatani was just about the perfect opponent for him. He did catch him a few times. Nakatani landed a few times to the body, particularly with a bolo, which obviously we've seen him get caught with before. I just think with Lomachenko, Lopez sort of figured out that lovely move that he does, obviously from his southpaw stance, where he lands a couple, often goes up and down, and then spins off to the right, or rather steps across laterally to the right, and then moves round his orthodox opponent. So they're sort of over his left shoulder where they can't see him. If you can nullify that particular move, which Lopez did, basically on his size, then you've got a good chance of avoiding any real trouble. Nakatani just couldn't do it. And you saw the first knockdown, which was from up close, a really vicious, spiteful little sort of hook when they were really up close, and that knocked him over. The second one sort of sent him tumbling as well. But I feel like Lopez might have his number in that sense. But it's an intriguing rematch if it happens. But it's one of them where it's not often you have this many questions about a rematch after seeing the first fight be that conclusive, which it was really when you think about it. I'm really interested to see what happens in the rematch, and if the injury and if everything we were told was actually true, or whether he just had a bad night. And I think he had a bad night, and I think it was Lopez was a lot better than we thought. I don't know who you boys would pick in that rematch, because it'd be unfair to pick against Lopez. But then you see, Loma's not finished, is he? If he was finished, he wouldn't have won that fight like he did last night, and he's not. He's got plenty left in there.
I think he's right. He looked great. He looked vintage last night. But again, it was an opponent to see. Again, you look at the size on the fellow, how big he was. But anyone with slow hands and slow feet, it don't matter what weight you are. It's just easy pickings for Lomachenko. And I think unless he goes into Lopez next, unless he fights someone with a bit of hand speed, like hand and foot speed that Lopez clearly has, then we're not quite sure how he's going to react. These boxing guys were too big for him. But also, we can't harp on about that because he's been a lightweight now for a couple of years, I guess. And so I know it was out of necessity for looking for a bigger fight, of course, but it was his choice. He wasn't forced to move up. He moved up for looking for greater glory. But so he's a lightweight now, even though he's not. He could probably still make super feather or maybe lower, but he is a lightweight, and those disadvantages are something that he's going to have to play with. We never moaned about when Duran moved up from lightweight to welterweight, and we just said, "Oh, this Duran, he's doing it, and he's boxing naturally bigger people and being successful." And so is Lomachenko. So the Lopez Lomachenko match we can't use. He's up against a naturally bigger guy because that's his choice. But I'm with you, Declan. I find it very difficult to pick a winner because it's almost impossible to pick against Lomachenko. It almost is. But then after watching that first fight, Lopez won. Like he came back into it in the end and made it a little bit closer than what it looked like it was going to be. But and all that, if he started faster, well, if I could punch, I would, or if I had a better chin and blah blah blah, people can say that. He never started faster, and maybe because he was, like you sort of alluded to, he was wary of the power of Lopez. He got to commit. The thing with Lomachenko, he doesn't do all his movements outside. He does it in range. That's what makes him so good. That's why you panic. That's why he bullies you against the ropes, and that's why you get flustered, because he makes you miss in range when you should be hitting stuff. He doesn't dance around and get off distance. He's in distance to hit you back, and he moves close to the body. But against Lopez, he was wary of that because he got clipped a few times, not clean shots, but he felt the weight and the natural size as well. He was tentative, and so Lopez did his job with that. Anyone who's got more power or whatever, you make him feel your power early to make the guy tentative to do his work. And I think Lopez, tactically, more than technically, tactically, was brilliant on that night.
Yeah, and if he'd started faster, Lomachenko, and put a bit more into those first 6 rounds, he would have probably been more open and could have got caught earlier and got hurt at some point. So
I think he definitely felt the power and tried to just make sure he was guaranteed. He was cautious. He was cautious because of that. That's all. And so Lopez might do that again to him. You don't know. But then also, with Lomachenko being such a smart fighter, to watch a fight is one thing. To be in the ring and do a 12 rounds with a guy, then you might go, I think he can punch. Until you've actually been in with a puncher, that particular puncher, you don't know how hard he hits. And also the weight and the speed of the shot. Sometimes the weight is not a problem. So it's the speed and the accuracy of the punches that affect different people. So I think he'll know what he's in with now, and I think he can plan accordingly. But then so can Lopez. I think his ring intelligence was massively underrated because he was the younger fighter who hadn't been in the same level as Lomachenko. So, but he boxed perfectly. I think he did everything. Didn't put a foot wrong all night. Lopez didn't try too hard to go for the finish. He was patient with his work as well. So, there's 2 intelligent fighters there that are going to go head to head again. So it's a great fight. And you're right. It's hard to pick a winner.
He was young and reasonably inexperienced as well, Lopez. So what would he have learned in those 12 rounds? Loads, probably. A bit like Fury against Klitschko, what he would have learned. He learned so much in those 12 rounds. So he'll be a better fighter from it as well. So then how did you bring that in when you're trying to make the pick?
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's the intriguing one. It's let's just hope it gets made.
Well, they sort of shook hands, didn't they? I think. Did Adam shake hands with Teofimo Lopez's dad? And so they sort of verbally agreed the fight was going to happen. We'll see, because money, it's all down to money at the end of the day, of course. But it'll be a good fight on what channel will that be on? It'll be some ridiculous channel that doesn't show boxing, and we'll all have to pay £85 pay-per-view for it, probably.
See if we can get it on here. Martin can pull it off.
Yeah.
Martin, do your job, mate.
I'll do my best. So, Teofimo Lopez, of course, has to first fight George Kambosos, a fight which was supposed to take place last weekend. Now might not take place until September. But I believe what Lopez's dad has said, that as long as the fight with Lomachenko is after that right away, so presumably early next year, then they're in. Is it the right fight? I mean, obviously Lomachenko wants it for obvious reasons. Is it the right fight for Lopez, assuming he comes through next time?
Yes, I think he can avoid him because he's beat him and go up a weight and box. Obviously, Josh Taylor is the fight that we all want to see, of course, but I still think it's a fight that he would really fancy that he won, because he won the first fight, so you fancy you could do it again, and I think you'll get well paid out of it. The Kambosos fight's perfect for him, because it's a fight that I don't see any danger of him losing, and he can look at it and get that and just get any of the cobwebs off. It's a good warm-up fight for him. So yeah, I think it is a fight I would take. And also, these fighters now, they're chasing greatness. To beat Lomachenko once is phenomenal. To beat him twice, to beat a guy of that stature twice before you move up to box the undisputed champion at the weight above would be, that's a Hall of Fame career right there. So it's a fight I would take, definitely. Really would.
I'd agree. If you look at the other names around in that division as well, it's not like there's any that are really calling him out. To be honest, he's always sort of not mentioned when they're talking about Garcia and Haney and all that sort of stuff. He's almost like not the forgotten man, but he's clearly out in the cold. So yeah, I think Lomachenko's second win, a second victory over him, and then move on, probably move up. Then I'd do it. And like Barry said, surely get a few quid out of that. I mean, he's been super rich after the Triller fight anyway.
And that's the problem with boxing, though. The best fight in the division is frozen out.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because of what? Because the other three are on one particular station, so you just build a narrative that guy doesn't exist.
Yeah,
it's ludicrous. But yeah, not with the other fella. The Davis gets called out, so it's a weird thing. But I think the Lomachenko fight. No, that's for me is still number one, number two in the lightweight division. So we certainly want to see that again.
Well, one fight that won't be taking place anytime soon is Gervonta Davis against Teofimo Lopez, against Lomachenko, against Haney, again, you name it. It won't be happening, but he is now, allegedly, possibly, a 3-weight world champion after an 11th round stoppage of Mario Barrios. Also, last night, Barrios was down twice in the 8th round, and then in the 11th, when the fight was waved off. Let's touch briefly on the performance. To be fair, Davis has, as I said, 3-weight world champion in theory. Last 3 fights have all been at different weights. No doubting he is a star, Barry.
He is. He's phenomenal, and the fact that he carried the power up with him is really good news. And that got him out of jail last night. I don't think he was. It was a close fight. I don't think he always looked like he was sort of comfortable-ish, but he was having trouble with the jab, and. If anything, last night proved that it was a good win against a good opponent. Let's be honest. It wasn't a world title fight. I can't see that. It's ridiculous. But it was a good win against a good world class opponent. But he's too small. He's just too small. The fact that because he was much better than Barrios. Let's be honest. But struggled because of sheer size. The guy's smaller than me. If you can imagine, if that's possible, he's smaller than me. But he carried the power up. The power, to carry that up is a real plus, which means that he will fight at this weight and he will be competitive. He will beat people because he has that star quality that whatever happens, at some point he can get himself out of trouble. That's what happened last night in a fight that didn't seem close to me when I was watching it, but on the cards you knew it was close. But once he knocked him down a couple of times, and Barrios had rallied in the next round, to his credit. That's how courageous he was. But the writing was on the wall, and he's a great finisher, and he really is. And he's also an underrated body puncher, is Davis, and that was obviously in the end what done the job.
I was going to mention that, Deck. He was very impressive to the body, and as Barry said, that's how the fight was.
Yeah, he's always been. It's one of his major. It's often with a small guy like that, but then you've got a big lanky bloke with a big long body in front of you. It's absolutely manna from heaven for him, and it was a great fight. That's the thing. He's like when you really look down the divisions, we haven't got that much box office. We haven't got that many actual exciting potential crossover people, and he's one of them. Despite barely like breathing a word, he's so quiet and withdrawn, which is very, very unusual. Usually it's the big brash shouty people that get, but he's so exciting in the ring that he's just got that star quality. But the problem is it's going to be absolutely nullified by this like absurd sort of thing that they've got going on, that Mayweather's insisted in that press conference that he's not fighting anyone on another network. It's going to be Showtime only. And then you look at the Barrios fight and you think, okay, was it because he's too ill-disciplined to, get inside 10 stone? Probably a bit of that. And it's handy for him that he didn't have to really cut like he would do. But then actually it's because there's a lack of opportunities. As soon as you have this rule that you're not allowed to fight anyone, on another network or anything like that. And it's going to completely stifle his ability to become a proper superstar and have any sort of legacy. And Barry mentioned it off air that, the sort of comparison to Adrian Broner. It's the same with Broner if you look at, for different reasons, but if you look at his career, if you look at his record, Broner, there's not any, you'd struggle to name like 5 opponents, let alone 5, there's no real big wins in there. Not any superstars. And then you worry about Davis. He's still only young, but what's going to happen over the next 5 years? Because there's so many people he could fight, and you just named a few of them that are on DAZN, that are with Top Rank or anything like that. And if they're just straight up saying he's not fighting any of them, it's going to be a strange old career that he's going to have. I don't know how long he's under contract. I don't know how he feels about it, how his coach Calvin Ford feels about it. It's a really weird situation. And do you know the strangest thing about it is we're not often told about these policies. Usually Mayweather, or he would be in that press conference going, yeah, I want Ryan Garcia, I want Lopez, they're bums, I want to fight him. At least they're just saying, no, we're not fighting anyone. We're not going to fight any of them. So we're not even going to worry about it. It's like, okay, well, then forget about it, which is a perversely almost kind of refreshing that we're not being told one thing and then behind the scenes it's the other thing. Mayweather's just like, no, not going to happen. Sorry. And you only have to listen to Leonard Ellaby last week talking about Davis and the policy they've got with him. It's not about being the best fighter. It's about being the biggest star. And I think they've just got it wrong. I just feel like fighting Barrios and people like Barrios is not going to make him a superstar, and it's not going to really cross over. And it's such a shame because he's got to be one of the most exciting fighters in boxing right now. And I just don't think he's going to get a chance to really prove it.
Well, he hasn't. He came over to London and beat Ian Walsh.
Yeah.
And he looked absolutely fantastic. But then stalled for a while. Didn't see anything. Nothing really took off with it, and that's the problem with it. That's the worry.
That Pedraza fight was so big for him, and that was years ago. It was so long ago. I think wasn't that on the undercard of James DeGale against Badu Jack? DeGale's been retired for like 3 years. It was so long ago. It's ridiculous. Like you're right, but that fight at the Copper Box ages ago. What's he been doing?
I was there ringside, and I'm blown away. I just thought, wow, he was just unbelievable ringside. And Mayweather was just sat behind me shouting, or sat in front of me, sorry, shouting and screaming. But you just thought, oh, this kid's something special, absolutely something special. And I think he is something special. But again, this need to, I'm the star, people have to come to me, I don't think he's not a star. He hasn't got that pulling power of a Mayweather where people have to get on their knees and beg for the opportunity to win big money. That's not going to happen with him. I just can't see it. He hasn't got as you've already said, he hasn't got that persona outside the ring to draw in, because he's a proper street kid, isn't he? You can see, if anything, he's the proper, he's the poster boy of how boxing saves a life to me. I think if he wasn't boxing, he would he'd be living a bad, very, very, very bad life. So it's but he's a talent, and the finish was fantastic. Once he hurts you, you're done. That's the thing with him, but. I'm not sure he's not going to box Josh Taylor because he's on a different network, and Ellaby's already said he's not a big enough name or something like that for him, which is ridiculous.
It brings nothing to the table. He's got all 4 belts. It's just like
brings nothing to the table. He's the number one in the division. He's exciting to watch. He's never in a bad fight, Josh Taylor. He's never in a bad fight, even when he hasn't performed. It's been a good fight. He's always in a good fight to watch. Like, that's the perfect opponent. If you think Davis can beat him, and you really want to sell him, he's the best opponent I have, because Taylor will give it to you. He will go to however hard you hit, Taylor will go right at you. And so if you think you can beat him, that's the fight to sell you. That's your coming out party. That's your superstar fight. He won't beat Taylor though. That's what I think, and he's too big.
I think, Declan, you said on Twitter that you did manage to come up with 3 names as possible opponents.
Well, it's just this is the other problem with Davis. I think he still holds about at 126, so a stone lighter. So can he get a stone off? Remember, he almost missed the weight against Liam Walsh. I think he had to make it like 3 times or something. So that ain't gonna happen. But you've got like Gary Russell Jr. down there. How heavy could he go? But he's just too small. Like he's with PBC. Who else have you got? Rolly Romero. There's another one. Or Mikey Garcia. I'll tell you what, Mikey Garcia, that's a great fight. Or Regis Prograis, who I believe is a free agent. Or do you know who else is a free agent? Is Devin Haney. So
is he?
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent now. So like there's some good fights. Like, let's be honest. And if he's boxing twice a year, that takes care of the next couple of years, kinda. And then who knows what the situation will be. Like then someone else might be free agent, or someone from DAZN might be there with Showtime. And they're great fights, but you just think, well, he ain't going to fight Mikey. Like they're not going to make that fight. Oh, they're not going to make Regis Prograis. It's not going to happen. But that's just the way that now that I'm tuned into thinking about Davis. It's like that probably won't happen, and it's not his fault. He would fight anyone. I'm sure. Like he would fight anyone, whoever they told him to fight, he would do it. But the problem is behind the scenes, and it's clearly a policy and just a rule that they're doing with him. And to be honest, it's so they haven't got to pay anyone big money. They know they can get opponents that they pay small money, and they get the bulk of it. And it's just Mayweather all over. And it's like fair, like that's just what they're doing. But Garcia, Prograis, Haney, there you go. They're 3 amazing fights that are within those parameters. But it's still asking a lot to get those ones, isn't it?
But this thing about boxing is a business, and that's what people say. At the end of the day, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. And okay, well, that's true. But as a fan, it's not a business to you. It's a sport, and you want to see the fight. So it's all this is a business stuff, and that's people's excuse not to fight each other, and it's ridiculous. And I just think that if he's getting the big if he's getting numbers that Showtime are happy with, then he won't fight. And then his management team will keep casting out people that he can beat until a huge name comes about where they can cash out, or he beats and elevates himself up. That's all. That's what will happen. If he's doing the number, I don't know if he's doing the numbers. I don't know what figures are like for these fights. If they're not good, at some point they're going to want their money back, aren't they?
I can't imagine. I don't know. I can't imagine that him against Barrios is selling big. I just can't. When you think about Ward Kovalev did whatever it was, like 200,000 buys or whatever, how is in a pandemic, how is Davis against Barrios doing the sort of numbers that Showtime require? And then I'm hoping that is when they start going, sorry, we're going to have to start fighting someone that people have heard of.
Yeah. So what about if he fights Devin Haney? So you've got one guy who's a champion but not really a champion at super lightweight against this guy who's a champion but not really a champion at lightweight, boxing each other. That's it.
But who cares about the belts in that fight? Because it's just a great fight, and that's one of those few great fights. Who cares? Like, forget them. But that is an amazing fight. Doesn't need a belt, but you just got to look at it now and be like, well, that ain't gonna happen. And that's just the way we are as boxing fans now.
You mentioned that he's quiet, and you saw at the press conference he didn't say anything about what was next. He just automatically deflects any such questions to Floyd Mayweather, who then, at some point does a fighter not have to speak up a bit? I know it was Floyd Mayweather. I'm sure he's done good by him, but at some point, does he not have to speak up?
Well, you would think so. I think it's what sort of job they do with him. I think if they keep him on a leash or sort, if they not bully him as such, if they keep their arms around him, then he'll just believe what he's told. But at some point, you'll be thinking, why am I fighting this guy? And you will, and also it depends how much you get to a certain age. You could say how much money he's earning. If he's getting, if he's got enough money now to think, the life I'm used to, I've earned enough now. I'm a relatively rich man. Then he's going to want, well, why am I fighting this guy for this super money? That's the point. Or when he starts hearing what other fighters are getting, that's when he's going to start going, hang on, why am I fighting him? Why am I getting that money? And then they'll ask the question, and then someone will say, because you're only fighting X, Y, and Z. And then they'll go, I don't care, I'll fight anyone. And that's so somewhere down the line, someone will speak. I think you can't shield the guy forever. You can't be the wall or the buffer between him and the TV station, because someone's going to speak to him and say, well, no, we're not giving you this because you're only fighting this guy. We want you to fight, this huge name, and you don't want to fight him. And that's when you start saying, well, I will fight him. And they go, well, speak to your management, and then that's where things fall out of bed, and people leave people and go other places for the lure of a bigger fight and more money. But if he's happy with what he's getting, he trusts the people and loyalty and all the rest of it. But loyalty disappears when huge money's involved. Loyalty with everyone disappears, and it does. And not always in a bad way. I don't mean that that you have to fall out with each other. It's just the money's so big that you start looking out for yourself, and that's just human nature, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so I feel like something's got to give somewhere in that triumvirate of Showtime, him and his management. That someone along the line is going to go, okay, this is not sustainable. Unless it is, unless we're just reading it wrong and it actually is, and they do great numbers and it's fine and they're happy with that, and Davis is happy with the money he gets paid. I'm sure he gets paid handily enough, but you would just have to think, where's the mega money coming from? So then the questions start coming, and also that rumors that, not rumors, but over the last 5, 6, 7 years that since Davis was signed by Mayweather Promotions, it hasn't been the smoothest relationship. They've had ups and downs. So it's not like, although it looks like a sort of mentor situation, it's far rockier than that, or at least it has been at times. So I think it's sort of simmering a bit. And yeah, the question comes, when does Davis start asking questions? And if he's getting paid well for a night like he had last night, then he'll be happy with that for now. He must know that is not a proper belt, and he's not a world champion in that weight class. And then eventually as well, he's not going to be allowed to hold any of the belts that he's got, because he was going to start getting mandatories and whatnot. So he'll end up with no belts. He'll end up with no shine, small money compared to his peers. And then hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it changes. I don't know how old he is. What is he? 20? He's early 20s still. So
yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
He's got another 10 years left. But having said that, he's been boxing with that Upton boxing gym since he was like 10 or something. So he's got miles on the clock in terms of, I don't mean in terms of damage, but I mean, he'll get jaded with boxing eventually, I'm sure of it. Maybe not. But there'll be a time when he's like, I've had enough. So you don't know how long these people are going to go on. I just hope we get to see the best of him, because I feel like he's arguably the most exciting fighter on the planet right now. And it'd be amazing to see him prove that and show that against someone, in his sort of stature. That would be the dream, but it just seems like a far way off at the moment.
What you can notice with him is that every time he hits somebody, even if they don't knock him down, you just see their eyes go, boom, they go so wide, like, whoa, I'm not taking another one of those. Like, he's frightening with his power, he really is, and he's so crisp with his punches and the speed and everything. So when he's aggressive, once he's hurt you, you're done. And a world-class finisher like that, at any weight, even if he's giving away 2 stone, is always a danger. But at lightweight, super featherweight, which he should be really, but at lightweight, imagine him and Teofimo Lopez. Just unbelievable fight. Him and Lomachenko. It's just the weight for him. That's what makes his name, his legacy, and the money at that weight. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, one thing on that is it's not just that, but he also got caught a bit. It was a fun firefight last night. It's not that he's vulnerable, but he's happy to get hit here and there. He's not necessarily elusive, and that is what people want to see. Non-boxing fans in particular, or casual boxing fans, they want to see a fight, and they got that last night. To be fair, that's the thing, you can't take anything away from it in terms of entertainment. That's exactly what it was, and that is what makes him so special. And I don't know, I just hope that in a year's time or whatever, we're not having the same conversation about when's he going to fight someone we want to see him fight. But it's not out of the question, is it?
No, we will have to live in hope, which is often in short supply for boxing fans. So next week is a quiet one on the boxing front, so we won't be here at a normal time. We are working on possibly maybe something different. Keep your eyes peeled at Mirror Fighting on social media, and we'll let you know. If we don't, we'll see you back in a couple of weeks' time to review Frank Warren's first show for a while, if I remember correctly. Until then, do take care.